Mark Burrick, and today we're gonna have a really, really interesting conversation. And I think you guys are lucky to be listening right now because we get to learn from an actual AVP champion, which is sick. We talked a little bit off camera about different types of leadership roles and how she's currently molding her own leadership role and trying to figure out what that looks like for her. And I think we're going to get into a little bit of arm swing mechanics because both me and our guests today have had pretty interesting journeys along the arm swing route and the science of it. More and more articles are coming out, they're being studied, and people are revamping the way they actually swing at a volleyball. So we want to talk about that and dive into anything and everything AVP, FIVB, training, leadership, and mechanics. So you guys are lucky. I'm excited, and we are going to talk to you today. AVP champion, it gets to live next to your name forever. How sick is that? Emily
Oh, good.
Stockman. What's up, Emily?
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Good. We're gonna have a good
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
what winning your first AVP. What
Oh,
here's the question that I always like to ask. I asked Casey Patterson this once. Um, for the final point, if you
mhm.
can go back to thinking, we're in that match, and you're about to get it. You're about to get AVP champion, right? Were you serving or receiving? Let's walk through it.
Serving. I was actually serving. Yeah.
You were the server.
Yep.
Score? Do you remember?
I don't. It was during I'm pretty sure it was AVP when they had the free scoring though.
Oh,
Yeah.
even well, a little more freedom.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, like there's a little less pressure there because you're like,
Yeah.
all right, well, if I miss this, I can go for it. If I miss it, we still got some chances to
Yeah.
hang.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you up big?
We were up pretty big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what was going through your mind when you're like, I mean, is it at that point? Is it just don't f it up, or like you got this in the bag, like just walk it in, just
Oh
go to
man.
your home, or were you already fired up, or were you focused more like on technique, positioning, things that you had to get done from a technical or strategical standpoint?
I think from a strategical standpoint, for sure, we had a really good game plan going in. So it was more about strategic serving and playing good defense.
Mm,
And like I said, I'm pretty sure we were up by quite a bit. So it wasn't like a do or die moment. Um, and I'm somebody that tends to like at the end of matches want to get it done fast. So I think in my head I was just like, okay, slow it down. We don't have to finish right now. Just like play steady like we have been the entire match.
mm. Okay, so more like trying to calm yourself or slow yourself than
Yes.
actually get hyped or do anything extra.
Yes. Definitely needed a calming headspace there and not get too excited because it definitely wasn't over. And
Yeah.
there had been previous matches that I had lost when I was up 2015 with the freeze. So
Oof.
yeah.
I fell victim to a few rough
Did
freeze
you?
matches, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we've all fallen victim to a lot of end of games, turns, everything. Just this weekend I was
Right.
playing against Evan, Corey, and Logan. Logan like lived with me. They both coach our camps, and so it's like
Oh,
good
nice.
buddies, but it's still
Yeah.
competition. You want to take them out.
Oh, totally.
Played a clean match all the way through, like really good volleyball, and then they started serving me at we were up 13-12,
Okay.
get into a point like a good rally, we're about to go to 14-12, like I got touched for the first time in a while during that match, and then it turned
Mhm.
into a rally. Then we had an open net swing. DJ's about to swing and a ball rolls on the court from the other court, and
Oh,
it's like,
no.
that was 14-12, but okay, let's move on, do it
Oh,
again.
yeah.
And then 3 points in a row just let up, and they took
Mm.
it 15-13, and I was just more frustrated than I've been in a very, very long time to play good volleyball, you know,
Yeah.
and then
Yes.
just comes down to a couple points at the end when my mentality didn't change. And then you wonder, should it change? Like right at the
Right.
end, you know, like, all right,
Right.
I've been doing something that works. So do I keep driving on this thing that works at the end of the game, or have they adapted? I mean, I hit like 20 high lines like through
Mhm.
through the match, just kept going back to the well.
Yeah.
And then it was still open.
Yeah.
Logan goes and he reaches as high as he can. Like if I literally hit it, his face would have no problem.
Yeah.
But he reached above the top of the antenna and got those touches. And it's like,
Dang.
shoot, should I have adjusted before he did?
Yeah. I know. Hard moments. I think until they stop you twice in a row to not adjust. Like it's been working, and until they make that chess move, then you have to make yours. But yeah, those are hard moments.
Mm.
And looking back is hard. Harder
Yeah.
than probably playing it out.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to like forget it, don't
Yeah.
try to figure out what you should do. And honestly, I would go back to it because the shots were open. I would have just hit
Yeah.
half inch higher. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's always that's what I'm telling the players in our program. We have like an online course where we meet with them twice a week. We review
Mhm.
their film and their techniques, and
That's awesome.
it's so much fun. But we focused on that this last week because I saw somebody ace somebody twice, and then the next serve went to the partner, and I was like, why? Yeah.
Right.
Why did this happen?
Right.
Like, and the lesson from last week's meeting was, hey, you just go back to the well until it runs dry. Like you don't.
Right.
The, the the thing that I pick is you have two buttons, right?
Mhm.
One of them keeps giving you money. There's like a green one and a yellow one, and you
Yeah.
press the green one and it gives you $100. Do you risk touching the yellow one thinking that it might shut off the green button forever? Or,
Right.
or do you just keep taking your $100 bills by pressing the green button? Like, don't go messing with the yellow button thinking it might give you $1,000 bill. Yeah.
Right. Right.
I'll
I'm
take
going
the
for the
money while I can get
$100.
it until it's not giving me money anymore, and
Yeah.
then I'll try something else.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's I think that's one of the most fun things with beach volleyball coming from indoor is just that chess game and learning as you're going. Our coach always says, like, until they do something clean 2, maybe 3 times in a row, you don't change it. Like, you don't change your defense until they beat it clean, right? And that's not to say, like, they do something and I'm the one that shanks the dig. That's not a clean side out,
Mm,
or that's not a clean play by them. So, yeah, the chess game inside of the volleyball game is what I think is super fun. And just like, yeah, it helps me think about those things as opposed to like, oh, I just shanked a ball or I'm not playing well. It's like, but what are they doing? What's working well? How can we stop that? So
yeah, it's
yeah.
it's tough because even so long ago when I got to, and maybe when you got to AVP, it was like you have to throw changes to keep them off balance. Everybody talks about like keeping them off balance.
Mhm.
And recently I just switched to vanilla. Like this works, keep doing it. And
Right.
some people have terrific shots or they're very good at one specific swing, and just keep going back to that because that's your strength. And if they're not stopping your best swing, well, like why would you ever stop it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But do you ever find any moments where that I have to change to keep them off balance, or I don't want them to get too used to it? Do you still ever implement that just to keep things changing, or to keep somebody from getting too used to a certain serve, or getting accustomed to it?
I think serving wise, I would say we probably mix it up more often than not to
Mm.
keep them off balance. Um, but it's not necessarily serving a different person. It might be serving the same spot from a different location.
Oh,
Um,
from a different location. So
yeah,
instead of changing like where you serve, you're saying, "Ah, let's just throw a different angle at it."
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we kind of do it that way as opposed to like, oh, we just, ace this person twice. Let's throw one at the partner and see if she's involved. We don't necessarily do that. It's just, yeah, like how can we keep this person uncomfortable? We don't want them to get comfortable. But if they're really struggling serving, a line to line, then we'll keep that going for a while.
Mm.
So it just kind of it depends on the player and it depends on the situation. It's never going to be the same in every match.
Yeah, it's weird how some people adjust, and then those players that you can kind of almost put to sleep,
Yes.
uh, and then like make sure you hit them with a quick serve. I think
Right.
some people. I did this to Theo a couple of times. I'm not saying that like I have a winning record against Theo, but
Yeah.
I've got him a couple of times
Yeah.
where serve the other partner, serve the partner, serve the partner. But literally, I'm talking like a whole game.
Right.
It's not like, oh, we served this person 3 times, so now Theo's asleep and we can get him on one. It's like,
Right.
no, you need to be 17, 18,
Yeah. Yeah.
before he thinks he's not getting served. And
Right.
then if you serve that other person to keep them off balance, it's got to be something that jumps on them and surprises them. So if you kind of
Yeah.
like loop it to the other person, they have that split second to wake up and set their platform and get their technique.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
if you just throw that mix and like fire it, don't
Right.
don't just give one to the other team. Like catch them,
Yeah.
surprise them, rush them on the serve. I That's how I think about it anyway.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that, and maybe even a middle serve and make them actually think about it.
Mm.
Different stuff like that. So good.
Do you have a way that you open games that is, like you always open a game a certain way? Like, is it a short serve, a middle serve without giving away? I don't think any AVP players listen to my podcast, so we'll be fine.
Figured away all my secrets.
Let's say it like this: if you were to coach a double A player, right?
Mhm.
Would you tell them to open the serve with the strategy, like open the game with the strategy they picked? Or are you one of the people that say, like, always serve middle at the beginning of the game because everybody's kind of a little shaky and wondering what you're going to do?
I would say I'm very strategic about it,
Mhm.
and again, just depends on who we're playing, what the situation is. Um, yeah, I try not to be a specific way when I start the match. I don't want to go to one swing or one serve.
Mm.
Um, I pay attention to our scouting report and kind of go from there.
What would you, if, you play a lot of World Tour as well. So
Mhm.
when you come up against a team that you literally have no scouting report, and a lot of matches that some people play, especially in the beginning of their career, you're coming up against a team. You know anything about these guys? Not a thing. Okay,
Right,
what do
right.
we do? Do you study them during warm-ups, or do you have a process for feeling somebody out, or do you run like a
Mhm.
certain couple of serves to say, this is how we're going to discover what they like to do or what they are doing?
Yeah, I definitely pay attention to their warm ups. Try to just get their tendencies or look at what their swings look like. So I pay attention to that a lot. And then serving
W-
wise,
What
oh,
specifically are you looking for when they warm up?
when they warm up, I'm looking who's a better setter or
Mm,
who's the not so good setter.
okay.
I'm looking for arm swing tendencies. A lot of players are inside out, outside in. So if I'm a right side player and the ball gets all the way to my right shoulder, a lot of players are going to take that back angle. And then if
Like
the
a
ball goes
crossbody.
side, yeah, then they're going to go back to the line. So I'm just kind of looking for those tendencies where the ball's at on their body versus the swing that they go to.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I guess if somebody's trying to show off, I think a lot of people try to show off in warm-ups, right? Or like they'll try to hit hard rather than cueing in their
right,
weakest swings.
right, for
So
sure.
you might be able to say like, where does he look really good, or where does she look really good? That's
Right.
probably what she's gonna want to hit when things get down to the wire.
Yes,
Mm.
definitely. Yeah,
And then at least you could get a look at what it looks like when they do go for that shot. So you
yeah,
get those little
yep,
subliminal messages that might appear for you later.
yeah. And then depending on where the ball is on their body, it's like then we can kind of determine, do we want to keep them to their line and force them to kind of hit that shot, or do we want to move them, serve them, to their inside seam, have them come out of the middle, stuff like that we're looking
What
for.
what would you see from somebody in warm-ups? Because I want to try to break this down for somebody
Yeah,
who's throwing down in CBVA double A's.
right.
Um, what would you see in warm up that says, we should serve this person middle, or
If
vice versa to
they
sideline? Yeah.
if their favorite swing is cross court, or you can see that's kind of their go-to,
Hmm.
I would bring a middle to take that away from them and make them a little more uncomfortable because they don't have as much court to hit into.
Okay, because they're closer to the sideline. They have like
Yeah.
less of the angle, and
Yep.
they're closer to the end line actually. So there's truly less space now in the
Right.
diagonal.
Right.
Okay, so a strong cross court hitter, somebody likes to pile into that,
Mhm.
try to work them into the middle so that they have a smaller hitting area. Maybe.
Yes. Yep. And then if, a smaller player or a player that's very shooty, I'd probably like to keep them more at the pin. Because once they
Really?
come out of the middle, they have the short, they have short sidelines, they have deep angles, they have deep corners.
Mm.
I think those are a little tougher to defend.
I
Uh,
hate serving cut shotters wide. I'm like,
yeah,
I just never want to give them that space. But if
right,
they're like poke over the block, shooting high line over the block, if they're looking for the defender,
right.
then yeah, I'm probably more comfortable, because it's weird when you see a ball hit away from you. Like when somebody hits out of the middle, you're
Yeah.
defending them the diagonal and they hit a high line, like back to the line, the
Hmm.
ball messes you up mentally because it's moving away. So you
Right.
almost give up on it quicker because like,
Mhm.
it's leaving me instead of I'm approaching it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think you have to either pick a side early, which kind of sucks as a defender because feel like you're giving up a lot of court,
Yeah.
or you kind of go I formation and hold, hoping that they don't come in swinging because you're not going to get like you're literally playing for shots only.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what in warmups. That's kind of what we're looking for and figuring out how we want to serve the team and what we think they're going to do. And again, it's warm up, so they could come out totally different in the match. But
Mm.
I think those first 7 points that's what we're playing into is what we saw in warm ups, and then kind of evaluating from there.
Isn't it exciting when you see somebody warming up and just bouncing, like
Yeah,
trying to like hit in the front half of the court, and you're just going, please keep practicing that.
please
Because
do that.
like I would love for you to bounce that steep, because we should have a blocker up there, and like this is how
Yeah.
you're training to go right into my block.
Yes.
Uh,
Love
oh,
that.
yeah. It's funny because when you're in high school and college, you're like, Jesus, these kids bounce. And then you get like
Wow.
25, 26, 30, and you're just like, go ahead, keep hitting that stupid swing.
I remember in college, like, we would be warming up and the coaches would be tossing like 50-50 balls. I'm like, "That's cool. That looks really nice when nobody's up there."
Yeah.
Good for you guys.
I don't know. I wonder if there's like a confidence build that does get you
Right,
going a little bit to feeling good. But at some point, you can only get so many reps from a 50-50 ball hitting steep before you
right.
start hurting your actual game.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. So we were talking off camera a little bit about your trying to learn how to transition as a leader, and
Mhm.
I think uh, I think we're very alike in that you really pride yourself on a ton of hard work. Put your head down,
Right.
ram your head into a wall 100 times, and I'll come out on top. Whatever you need to
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
you just get it done. And you were saying that your college coach had said you lead by example, but you have to also lead with your voice
Mhm.
and your opinions, and being able to not just have somebody watch you and hope that they notice and hope that they emulate you, but
Right.
you actually have to encourage them to do that, or to even take a strategical, or psychological leadership position where you're helping somebody breathe, or you're telling them what to do next. So can you walk me through what this season has been like right now? We're in middle of September. By the time the
Yeah.
podcast people hear this, might be November. So had a pretty good season, and
Mhm.
you're in a new role
Yes.
now. So what's going on?
Yeah, it's been, not the easiest transition for me, just from a leadership standpoint, because like I mentioned, It's not something that comes natural to me. Um, Leading by example is super easy for me, but when I have to be vocal, it's just, I don't know. There's times where I'm like, but if I'm asking my teammate to do this, block this ball, and then I miss a dig, I've always had this weird, like, how can I get mad at her or put that on her if I'm not playing at my best?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I've been working a lot with my sports psych and just trying to figure out what that means and how I can step into this role as a leader. I'm playing with someone who's a lot younger than me, and this is her first year on the pro circuit.
Hmm.
So it's been really exciting. It's been cool that I've been able to, step into this role and have to kind of practice it early on. Um, but also, like at the beginning of season, she was still in college. So I was playing with a ton of different players. So I was like,
You've played
every
with a lot of people.
so many different people. I didn't know who I was going to play with, every day of that week. And so it was very frustrating. Um, but then
Does
I
that ever
realized,
make you like question your skills or abilities when you're like, man, I'm I've played with so many people. Is it because there's something wrong, or do you consider it like, look how many people I get to play with, or are willing to play with me and give it a shot? Does it go one way in your head? For me, it always messes with my confidence. It's like,
yeah,
man, I can't stick with somebody long term. There's got to be something wrong with my game or my attitude or the way I present
yeah,
myself, and so you're constantly trying to figure out what's wrong,
right,
instead of just focusing heavier on your game. And I'm like, well, you know what? If I dig every ball and I side every ball out, there should be no question. So let's
right,
just
right.
like I'll go back to that. Like, let me side out better, and then we'll
Mhm.
figure it out.
Honestly, the 2 times, so the beginning of the season 2018 and then the beginning of this year, I because I didn't have a partner right away,
Mm.
I felt like I grew the most in my game because all I did was focus on me. I didn't have to worry about a teammate. And this year was a little different because I knew that I was going to play with Meg. It
Okay.
wasn't that I was looking and couldn't find a partner. It was that she had to finish school. And then we knew that when she was done, we were going to play together. So it was me just kind of playing with people until she was done.
Okay.
Um, that definitely didn't, if anything, it helped my mindset of like, I'm focusing on me. This is all I care about right now. And in those moments, I felt like I've grown the most. Um,
Like
and
what?
it's
Is it grown, physically, or just allowed you to be calmer in your head, or
both physically, mentally, because, we're talking about leadership, and every day I was on the court with somebody new. And I had, me and my coach, and even though Meg wasn't there yet, like we
who's
have a
coaching you right
system,
now?
Scott Davenport,
Oh, great coach.
amazing
Fantastic.
coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a system we run. So it's like anytime someone new came in, I had to be like, I need this at this time. This is the set we're running in this situation. Defensively, I was quarterbacking everything.
Hmm.
Like, this is what we're going to do. This is, and we were playing against players that I've played against my whole career. So I know their tendencies and I know these things. So that was a really good learning experience for me, talking about leadership and really stepping into that role. So that when May came out, I was already practicing it and working on it.
But isn't that hard, because you're okay, so you're playing with girls at a very high level, right?
Mhm,
And then you're telling them, this is the system we are running. I know we're not playing together, but this is the
mhm,
system we're going to in practice. Is that just you being maybe bolder and more courageous than they are? Like, where you don't run their system, you run your system? Or were you picking players that you knew were excited, to play with you for that day? How did that go? Because I imagine when you want to practice the system that you're in. And I know, because I kind of hovered around John Hayden for a long time and
mhm.
his partners. And
Yeah.
with his partners, he left Evie here to teach the bigger guys John's system. And like, you have to be here because John moved to Nashville. And so they had to learn how to run that with guys that don't really run John's system, but they
Right.
have to with this new partner.
Right.
So how are you navigating that with somebody new playing your system versus playing theirs when you're almost equals?
Yeah, for sure. I think John specifically runs a very his system is very specific to him.
Hmm.
Um, I think I mean, we definitely have stuff that's specific to Meg and I, but it's also just like a general system. When we're out of system, we want the ball pushed all the way up to the net.
Okay.
When we,
Is there anybody who doesn't ask for that?
I definitely there's people that want it they want it up to the net, but sometimes they want it in the middle, sometimes they don't want it all the way to the pin.
Okay. Okay.
There's definitely a wide range when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because the whole like juniors like set it half court or don't set me to the
right,
net when you're in trouble, and then you
right.
get to a qualifier and you're like, wait a second, everybody can dive off the court and set perfectly on the net.
Yeah,
Like that's I guess that's how
exactly.
we got to do it.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I think, that stuff is always it's always I think it's gonna be uncomfortable for people right at the start.
Mhm.
But I also think it helps people just grow their game because they realize, like, "Oh, I can do this, and this does make sense in this situation." Different stuff like that. So, and the players that I was asking to come to practice, they're all professionals, so it's not like I'm asking them something that they can't do,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was, but then, and even, like, I played with Lauren some tournaments, I played with Day in some tournaments, and if they wanted something different, I would give that to them as well. I'm
Cool.
not gonna, like, completely force, like, "No, this is the only way I do it." It's like, "This is the set that I want, but in this situation, if you want that, then I'll give that to you."
Okay.
So,
So
yeah.
it's really about asking. It's more. It's less what you're setting, but more what you need as a hitter in various situations.
Yes.
That it's important to discuss what you need and when you need a specific change or a specific location. Um,
Yeah.
so it's not necessarily always an entire system change. Just this
Right.
is how high my set is. This is how far off it is.
Yeah.
Unless you're setting from the back half. In that case, then we're gonna go here and here.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And I think too, people would come to practice and they have no idea what they want. And that to
Isn't that
me,
wild? Oh my
I
god.
think is a problem. I'm like, "Wait, but these
Oh,
scenarios
what
come up."
you do it in hitting lines,
Yeah,
and then you set a ball, and they say, "Yeah, that's perfect." And you go, "What was perfect about it? Like, was
yeah,
it because it was like that far off? Because it was inside,
right.
outside?" So I like Adam Roberts. Getting to play with him was so much fun because he had this one
Yeah,
statement when he would set you. He would set you, and then say, "Was that a 7 or an 8? And how do I make it a 10?" He
that's
didn't say
awesome.
rate it, you know? He
Yeah,
didn't say, "Was that a good set?" Because then you get the generic yes or no answer,
right,
or
right,
the even worse, like, "No, that's fine." And it's
right,
like, "Oh my god,
right.
now I'm in a relationship argument." Like,
Yeah.
if somebody says, "I'm fine," we're in a bad spot.
Those words are never good.
Oh, yeah. Never good. Um, so but, like, I love the way that he put it, whereas, "Was that a 7 or an 8? How do I make it a 10?" Like, he said all of
Yeah,
that before he even said one word, and I've always said that is the best way to ask, like, to start learning what set someone needs.
right. Yeah, I love that.
Mm,
Love that. Yeah, those things are important, it's, I think at our level, there's a lot of people that have a big hitting window, but at the same time, it's like, but what is the perfect set for you? Because that's what I'm gonna try and get you every single time. And if I'm gonna err, would you prefer me to err high? Would you prefer me to err inside? Those are conversations that even if I had someone out there for one day of practice,
mm.
we start practice with those conversations because it's important because you want each other to be able to play your best in that situation. Um, and so you have those talks before you even touch a ball.
We the amount of times that I've switched partners,
Yeah,
you always know that you go through all these same talks that are actually like very important. And until you have them, you don't actually know what people need and where. So
right.
it's just like, what? So many people play with so many partners. that I'm just going to make something for everybody. And we did this where it's if you can see it on screen right now, it's betteratbeach.com/partner profile. It's not a paid anything. It's just
Okay.
literally a set of questions that you
Yeah.
should ask your partner before you start playing with them. And it gets a little bit uncomfortable because it forces you to be exact with what is your favorite set. Like I
Mhm.
ask in this little questionnaire, it says, no, how many feet off of the net is your favorite set?
Yeah.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
do you like your setter? Do you like your set as a relationship from the setter or from the antenna? Or is it
Mhm.
just like a fixed point? Because that's important. Some people like always 5 feet off of you. And you're like, "Well, that's not always because, if I'm at 10 feet or 15 feet, it's definitely not going to be in that same spot."
Right.
And then
Right.
it says, how far from the setter or how far from the antenna. And then it comes with, of course, another 20 questions.
Mhm.
But if you guys are ever interested in the most important questions to ask your partner, it's not complete. It never is, but it's a really great tool to have. So check out betteratbeach.com/partner profile. It's on the screen right now and we'll link it below. But it's a great questionnaire to go through so that you don't have to go through those stupid conversations after you lose a point.
Right. Right. Yeah, seriously. Is there stuff on there too about, like, from a mental side? If one of you is struggling, what do you
We
need from your partner?
uh we have so I started this at the same time that I was going through marriage counseling before we got married. We wanted to go to
Okay.
a therapist and be like, you know what, if I get a coach for volleyball, damn sure I'm getting a coach for the relationship for the rest of my
Yeah,
life. Like
right?
somebody get me to my highest.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so there was a lot of like, absolute turn-ons, absolute turn-offs. Like what's a
Mhm.
word that just disgusts you when you hear it,
Right.
or an intonation that always turns you off. And it might have developed, when you were a kid or somebody once.
Mhm.
For me, if somebody ever looks at me and says, "Don't be lazy," that I mean, we're immediately not friends. I'll shut you out because I'm like, to me, that's like you don't know a damn thing about me. If
Right,
you put the
right.
word lazy in my universe,
Yeah.
uh-uh. So it's like you should not put anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I promise you it won't be. But yeah, it talks about what to do when I'm down. It asks you the best way to fire you up or to act before a match. Do you
Mhm.
like to put yourself under a towel and breathe, or do you want to slam each other in the chest and get fired
Right.
up?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's a fun questionnaire, and it's
Yeah.
cool to go through. I took
It
Tim
seems
Brewster
like
and Kyle through it. Kyle Friend,
okay. Yeah,
when they
yeah,
started playing together, and they loved
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And it was only because I was playing with Dave Lee for a practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, hey, let's learn each other's games again and let's go through this. And Kyle
Yeah.
and Tim loved it. And David
Yeah.
was like, this is so important. He's like, teams
Right?
don't do this. Guys don't do this. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah, it can seem like the silliest things, but you're like, no, in those moments, it really matters. Like that could be a 1 to 2 point swing, which could mean a match.
13, 15.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
So
what did you need from your partner when you guys you
right.
guys lost that match?
Yeah. Oh man. So Brandon, when we were playing together, like a couple of
Mhm.
times, kind of during the serve toss, he finished a thought or made sure that I had this in my mind during that. But
Mm,
that for me served as a complete distraction. Like I'm
yeah,
cued into the server and now I'm supposed to pick up information from somebody next to me. So I
right.
said, after the second time that happened, I was like, hey Brandon, whatever we have to talk about, we have to talk about way before the serve starts. I go, as soon as
Yeah,
the ball's in that guy's hands, I can't have any words because I need to focus completely on passing. And so
yeah,
that fixed that little micro problem there.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. That's amazing.
yeah,
Communication. It's that
mm,
simple.
it's wild. It's wild how
It's not,
important it is and how
yeah.
kind of bad at it most people are.
Seriously, and I think that's what comes along with leadership is there's been times that maybe I felt a certain way in a match or yeah, there was something going on and I always hold it in. And that to me is like, if I verbalize that to my teammate, she could either step up or maybe she's feeling the same way.
Mm.
And it's like that is huge. Just the open communication can change the demeanor, can change the energy of a match or whatever.
And then people have to learn how to communicate, right? It's not only that
Mhm.
you say it,
Yeah.
But how do you put it? Like
Right.
I share this story a lot, but uh, Piotr, when yeah, when I finally beat Haydn and got Theo, it was because Piotr said, "Hey, I think I see a tendency. When this is happening, I think he goes here. When this is happening, I think he goes here." He
Yeah.
didn't say, "Dude, stand wider,"
Yeah.
or "Make sure you're covering the seam," right?
Mhm.
He said, "I think this is happening when this happens." Didn't give me any instructions,
Yeah.
but shared with me what he was seeing
Mhm.
rather than telling me where to go, and that made me still feel comfortable and say, "Oh, all right." Because I don't have any tendencies picked up right now. I'm like just
Yeah.
out here scrambling, and
Yeah.
that little key helped us win that game. But I think it
Right.
was because he put it in such a good way that I was
Mhm.
wide open to the rest of it. And of course, I wanted to keep playing with him, so I was like, "Whatever you say, Peter."
I got you, bro.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's nice when you learn how to communicate things and
Yep.
with various people.
Yeah. Yeah. How do people respond to certain communication? That's all part of being a leader. All the
Mm.
stuff that I'm learning and working on right now. Um, it's tough.
What
It's
do you
tough.
what do you think if you had to announce like a biggest weakness that that you've developed or something like that in terms of communication or leadership? Would it
Mhm.
just be that you're just not ready and willing and wanting to talk?
I don't think I do it purposefully. I think it's more of, oh, she probably sees it too, so I don't need to say it. Or
Ah,
yeah, something like that, where it's
mm,
just kind of like, or I've already said that, so it doesn't matter.
mm.
Um, and I even went through, a few years ago.
You feel like you're
I
nagging them, right?
What's that?
And they feel like you're nagging them.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
say it 2 or 3 times, like, "No, she knows now she's gonna get pissed at
No,
me because
yeah,
I've said it the 3rd time instead of."
yeah.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Or yeah, like a few years ago, when I was playing with Kim DiCello, we were in China, and I was so sick before the match, and I didn't tell her. So after the match, I was like curled up in a ball, like stomach hurt so bad, and she's like, "Why didn't you say anything?" I'm like, "Because
She
I
thought
didn't
you were
want
mad at her.
you to like change how you were playing." I don't know.
Right, yeah, you don't want them to have to lean on you to change their game.
Yeah,
I've been in
yeah,
that same situation where you're like, "Do I tell them?" And then they feel like they have to take so much weight or they have to go on
right,
2 more. But if
right.
you're a team, you do. You have to share
Yeah,
it. Just
yeah.
because, like, if you're for the first time not talkative and not celebrating, she might randomly interpret it as, "Oh,
She's
Emily's
mad.
pissed at me.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know
exactly.
what I did, but she is
Yep.
pissed at me." And
Mhm.
then that turns up her game off more than if you were just sick and she was just like, "Okay, I'll fight through this with you."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the littlest things, and that was definitely a learning experience for me, and it's it's been a game changer now, because there's times you're on the road and you're sick or you don't feel well or whatever's going on,
Mhm.
it's yeah, it's good to share those things with your teammate, and hopefully they don't overreact and like, "Oh, now I have to do this, this, and this," but if you have that open line of communication from the beginning, they're not going to. It's gonna
Mm.
be, it's a two-way street. You guys are helping each other in different scenarios.
Yeah. And how like arrogant is the mindset to say like they can't handle this information or
Right,
you're making
exactly.
their future for them without even knowing how they're going to react.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Ugh, partner dynamics.
It's like a marriage, right?
It's it's way worse than a marriage, I'll tell you that. I
Good
love
to know.
I love being married. I'm so happy.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Well, like I I'm comfortable in my marriage because I know she's not going to leave me. You
Right,
know,
right.
she's next weekend she's not going to go run around. Some people don't have that comfort, which is like terribly sucks
Yeah,
for them. But like, hey,
yeah,
I made a promise. I'm in this to the bitter end. Like we're
yeah,
going. And then that
yeah.
having that faith of like, whatever I say, whatever I open up to, yeah, it's going to be a fight, but we're in this for life.
Right,
And I was able to get that from my brothers. Like me and my brothers can get real pissed at each other, um, and get into some uncomfortable yelling matches. But we
Mhm.
do that and we get through the fights early and fast
Yeah.
because it's like, one time me and my brother were discussing how much time I should get with my nephews when I roll back into town from California, when I go back to New York.
Mhm.
And I was like, "What? Okay, so he's gonna miss 2 hours of sleep. This is my only weekend here." And he was
Right.
like, "Hey, dude, we have a life and a schedule. You can't just roll into town and change everybody because you don't have to deal with the next week of him being too tired to wake up for school."
Right.
And so we were both coming from a good place,
Right.
but we are
Right.
really, really mad at each other. And so I stormed upstairs. I was like, "Let's get through this right now," and we like
Right.
yell at each other because I know that at the other end of that fight, like we're together for life.
Right. Exactly.
So you have that good confidence, and if
Mhm.
you could almost go into a lot more things with that confidence of it's okay to fight because we're still going to be together. You should fight, and it's inevitable that you will fight with the ones that you love. And if you don't, it means you're kind of taken away from that relationship because you can't
Mhm.
progress without it.
Right. Right. I totally agree with that. And I think that's with partnerships too. Like, you don't have to agree on everything. You don't have to see eye to eye on stuff, but can you respect each other and work through it to where you're both getting what you want and you both are comfortable, in the situation, and knowing that they're not looking other places. If you have a bad match, you shouldn't have to worry if they're going to jump ship.
Yeah.
Um, I think for me, I've been lucky enough. I've played with a decent amount of people, but I don't think there's ever been a situation where I was completely caught off guard. Like, I'm out. We've always kind of been on the same page because of that open communication. So,
Mm.
yeah.
I knew in a couple of moments, like, well, this is over. There were a couple of tournament moments where I was
Yeah.
just like, you can't like, oh, we're done.
Yeah. The worst.
Before the match finishes, you're just like, oh, this is one of the last two matches we ever play together.
Although I think sometimes in those scenarios is when you play your best because you're both checked out and you're like, well, nothing to lose now.
Right?
Or so I've heard. I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes, you're like, you know
Yeah.
what? If we can't get along, then I'm going to do my thing completely and 100%.
Yeah.
And you almost stop relying on them. I think there are moments for defenders, especially, and blockers to stop making calls, to
Yeah.
just say, you go up and whatever you see, you block or you try to stop them. I'm
Mhm.
going to do that same thing back here. If
Yeah.
we happen to leave a spot open because we saw a different thing, all right. But if we're both semi decent at reading and seeing what's
Mhm.
happening, and
Yep.
we're both making those kind of moves or guesses into it, then
Mhm.
you're almost in a better spot than if you're making coordinated plays.
Yeah, totally.
I
I
I
think
find that especially in like grass and big court,
yeah.
it's play calls in big court are so stupid. Like you have to,
Right.
you have a
Right.
mile to run and a mile to side out, so you might as well both go instinctual.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, I always give my blockers like, yeah, we have this play called, but if you read something else, you have the freedom to throw your hands in there or you see
Hmm.
something different. And if they score, they score. As long as we're both on the same page, it's like, hey, I read this, that's my bad.
Mm.
Or I read this and it was wrong, my bad. No big deal. And we're back to it.
I love those conversations. What did
Yeah.
you see? Sorry, I saw his elbow drop, so I jumped on it. Great.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, if you have a good reason for what you did,
Yeah.
we're in a good spot. Because I probably would have done the same thing if I saw that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I
Yep.
hate when people talk about stealing, but like, oh, you stole my hard driven cross dig. And it's just like,
Yeah.
you mean he went for a block? If
Right.
he misses by
Right.
half an inch, he's a half inch away from a point immediately.
Right. Right. I'm just like, hey, if you read it, fully commit.
Hmm.
Like, if that's what you want to do, just make sure you do it full and we're good.
Yeah.
And if it's
Or,
wrong, that's wrong.
or defender, just make sure that you call that. Like, I call that a hook play. So this is
Mhm.
like one of the plays where I say, "Hey, you're blocking line, but you are showing him that you're blocking line. You're going to reach as high as you can. You have zero responsibility for hard cross. I
Mhm.
want him one on one
Yeah.
and hard driven." Right? Like your
Yeah.
job is to reach high and touch the high line because I'm not even going to really focus on the high line. But
Right.
I want him one on one, hard driven. So you let him go. But that's a
Yeah.
very specific play call against. I'm not gonna do that against like Taylor Sander. Like
Right. Right.
take my head off.
That's right.
He'll
Just
bounce it 10
stand
feet
up
in
the
front of me.
10-foot line, you're good.
Yeah. But guys who are hitting high and flat, like, yeah, I'll
Mhm.
take them one on one, a hard driven.
Yeah,
So, but
absolutely.
that's got to be a specific play call, I think.
Yeah, yeah, for
I
sure.
like the. I always like. I kind of do this and this. So I show fists and then line, fists and then line. Like,
Yeah,
hey, your
ball
ball
line.
first,
Yep.
and then if they're like off or if they're uncomfortable, then you switch to the line ish.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that too. Like, always ball first, no matter what we're doing.
Yes.
'Cause if the set gets tight, what like, plays off, and you freaking grab ball.
hmm Isn't that the worst feeling as a blocker when you like run a 4 or a 3 when the ball was sitting like on top of the net and you dive out of the way and watch somebody bounce
Yes.
it? And you're like, oh, why did I
Oh,
stick with the play call?
I know. It's so hard. Yeah.
Ugh,
I think it's harder as a blocker. Meg and I played the Laguna Open last weekend and did some split blocking, and I'm just like, yeah, when I'm blocking, I'm like fully committing to what we're calling. Sorry. That's my bad. I'm like, oh, I tell you to go ball first. Maybe I should listen to that.
So funny. Ryan Doherty had a story about that. He told like our campers one time. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, when people are telling me to block the line, it was like make sure that you're protecting the line. So he's like, I had to figure out that something was wrong because I was over by the antenna watching somebody hit the middle of the court like sideways. You know? And he's like, I had the line.
Line was covered.
But
Hilarious.
he obviously got a little better at that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, that's amazing.
so let's talk arm swing.
Yeah.
You said you've made some changes. So let's ask one of the fun questions. What are you doing differently now that people told you for most of your career or in juniors or in college that
Mhm.
you have said, uh-uh, I'm actually going to try this. So what's changed from what you were taught to how you're applying it now? Like one of the things with your arm swing.
Um, so I would say it's just different from indoor to beach because
Okay.
I've worked with Scott since the very beginning of my beach career. And that's one of the first things we worked on when I started working with him in 2014.
Mm,
Um, I tend to have a big draw in my arms. I have very long arms. And so my arm becomes late. Like my hip and my body will go, and then my arm's late.
okay.
Um, so we've been working on just keeping it more compact. And it's more of thinking of like squeezing your shoulder blade than like drawing your elbow back. Right.
Oh.
So it's like a rubber band. Like that's how he explains it is that, you pull a rubber band tight, it's going to want to let go.
Mhm.
So as soon as you're leaving the ground, you draw that shoulder blade back. And by the time you're in the air, your arm wants to release anyway.
I l- I like that the visual that I got because it's kind of similar. Like I would pump my elbow back, the muscles in the back of my shoulder would flex and tighten,
Hmm.
and there would be no movement in my shoulder blade. And then I got to work
Right.
with Isaac from Torque VB, Isaac Newball.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Fantastic with arm swings.
yeah,
He really opened up my wrist away to like now I actually get kills down the line, which
yeah,
wasn't happening before that. But
yeah.
we talked a lot about how the shoulder blade and the rhomboid act and drawing
Hmm.
that down. And I think some people open, but when you like open your shoulders or you spread your elbows, you kind of flex the back of your shoulder a little bit
Right.
instead of like I know I look like a chicken or something. Uh, but squeezing the shoulder blades while still
Mhm.
having a loose arm, and that's really
Right.
difficult. Some people can't do that. Like if you're
Right.
sitting at home right now, can you squeeze your
Yeah.
shoulder blades together and still have completely loose arms and like wiggle them around? That's a good test because a lot of people squeeze their shoulder blades and their upper arms, and now the whole thing is rigid. And when it's
Right.
rigid, you get no power.
Right. Right.
So you're not drawing like back with your elbows, but
No.
you're still kind of getting that position, but
Hmm.
just more from a shoulder blade activation, rhomboid.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm not even worried. We don't worry about where the elbow is because it's going to be different for everybody. Like
Mm,
you don't have to draw it high, you don't have to draw it low. It's whatever happens when you pull that shoulder blade back.
okay.
And then there's no hesitation on the swing. So as soon as you're leaving the ground, your shoulder blade's back, and then you're through the ball. Most of the time before blockers' hands are even in position. So that's what's so great about this arm swing is that it happens so fast that most blockers aren't even going to be in position um, before you contact the ball. So
Hmm.
it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how high you're hitting over the net because your arm swing is going to be done by the time they're fully in position.
So then are you kind of hitting on your way up, or like you're starting your swing before you hit the top of your jump?
Yes. So I'm basically the way I try to do it, and it's not always, it doesn't happen as early as you think it's going to happen, but I'm starting my arm swing on my step close. So by the time
Whoa.
I'm in the air, I'm through the ball and it's done.
Okay.
Um, it doesn't happen that early, but that's what it should feel like.
Okay, so that's kind of, yeah, so if we watch you in super slow motion, maybe it wouldn't
Right.
seem like that, but to get to cue you to doing that,
Yes.
where like
Yes.
your coach is saying, start swinging when you're on the ground,
Yes.
almost. Yeah.
Yep.
I I like that. There's a bunch of weird stuff that you tell athletes where you're like, this isn't actually what's going to happen, but this is what you
Right.
have to hear to make it happen.
Exactly. Dude, and
Uh,
that's for me. Like I've been playing the sport now for 8 years, and it's like I still need those cues and to feel like that.
mm,
To make the arm swing accurate.
yeah.
And then along with that is our finishing points. So I play on the right side. So if I'm going to swing line,
Mhm.
I finish all the way through to my right hip. If I'm swinging for the seam, I'm swinging all the way through my legs. And then if I'm swinging angle, shoulder, hip, everything goes together, and I'm finishing down to my left hip.
Hmm. You're
So,
you're still giving those cues. For me, I found that when I gave the cues of like which pocket to finish in, I
mhm,
found that a lot of people were accelerating, and maybe it's I do a ton of coaching,
yeah,
and a bunch of different athletes, but I see people who are tight, so they're a little too tight in their chest to actually get their shoulder blades back. So first, it's huge
mhm,
mobility and like downward dog stretches
yes,
that they need to get for a proper arm swing, where they're
right,
like, I can't
right.
hit the ball. It's like, well, we're in for 2 months of mobility work, and then we'll start working on your arm swing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
uh,
First
but
things first.
yeah, but when I when I gave some players the cue of which hip or pocket to finish in, I found that they started accelerating their hand after contact instead of like loading behind the body and swinging up and then almost relaxing until their pocket.
Hmm.
Have you ever gotten that cue to finish up instead of where you're finishing like down by your hips? Or you
No,
just never
not
needed
to
it?
finish up. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but again, like, yeah, I think everyone's cues are different, right? So it's not. I think that's something for me that just doesn't stick or wasn't necessary.
Mm.
Um,
So this is like a cool talk. So for those of you who listen to multiple episodes, if you're looking for, I'm not saying converse, and we're definitely not saying that either Try or Phil or Emily are wrong, but we are saying that
yeah,
this is why coaches exist and that they can have different athletes hear different things. Because we had conversation with Try and Phil where they're both like, I had to learn how to swing up and stop finishing, and you'll see some of Try's hardest hits. He like kind of stops with his hands still above his head.
hmm
But if you have an athlete that doesn't need to hear that because she's still operating high and she's becoming more accurate with a certain cue, then that's the cue that that athlete needs to hear. So when I get all of your guys hate mail and you say, "Well, you said this in this video and then you just posted a reel that says the opposite." I
yeah,
said, "Yeah, on Monday and Friday you might need to hear two different things to get to the same place."
right, absolutely. Yeah, and I think too, it's I had shoulder surgery back in 2010,
Mm,
so if I go up and stop my arm swing, I feel like that puts a lot of pressure in my shoulder joint. So I don't want to stop like all the momentum I just created. I want to keep going and swing all the way through.
Let it relax all the
Let
way
it,
through so
yeah,
that you don't
let it
fight
finish.
the stop with the back of your
Yeah,
shoulder. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I think sometimes too, coaches say things a different way. I think that's kind of what you're just saying. We might say it a different way, but it doesn't mean that it's completely different. It's just another way of saying it. And some, it makes sense to some players, and then other players need to hear it a different way. Like even when I'm coaching, I try to use different cues that work for different players.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love when I'm coaching and I go, well, like, hey, make sure you get your hands closer together earlier. And then I hear somebody listening and I go, Stop listening.
Yeah.
That was for him right now, not for
Yeah.
you."
Not for you. Yeah.
Like you have to like shut it off because you're like, I'm trying to get you to do the opposite. So you meet somewhere in the middle of that spectrum.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's but
Yeah.
that's should be, I think, the mark of a good coach that you have different tools and different cues for different athletes who are in
Mhm.
different places.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Um, yeah, I think the best coaches in the world can work with multiple different athletes and get the same result because they are willing to adapt and adjust to what different athletes need versus this is the way to do it and this is the only way to do it. And if you don't do it, then it's wrong.
Yeah. You're limiting the people you can coach. Like if you can
Yes.
only find people who match your system, okay.
Mhm.
But then you better be the best damn recruiter in the entire world because you got
Yeah,
to fit exact molds to you. So you can be
exactly.
successful that way as a coach
Yes.
or as a teammate, right?
Yeah.
You can recruit only players who are like silent behind you because that's how you play most comfortable. But
Right.
then, you might not get to play with April, and she'll
Yeah.
make some noise back there.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
This is I'm just gonna take a moment from the show, guys. We're talking a lot about arm swing, and if you guys are interested, we do have an online course. It's recorded, but of course, if you join our membership program where we get to coach you twice a week and you take videos and we study your arm swing and we give you all the feedback you need. Literally, you post videos, you post questions on our private Facebook group, and you actually get feedback within 24 hours from one of our coaches. And we have one course that's very specific. It's called Fix Your Arm Swing in 21 Days. It comes with exercises, mobility protocol, throwing and swinging exercises that you can do. And of course, if you're a member, then you get to post those videos. And you can find that if you're listening. It's betteratbeach.com/ fix your volleyball arm swing. I know that's long. We'll get a better one, but betterbeach.com/ fix your volleyball arm swing. If you really want to work on your arm swing mechanics, it's a 21-day course with stretches, workouts, and drills that you can do to adjust that. And again, if you're a member, we actually work with you on your videos where you get to post it, we get to see it. And so you're getting AVP, FIVB, and certified strength and conditioning specialists who are going to help you with your technique. So jump in there, betterbeach.com/ fix your volleyball arm swing. Thanks for that commercial break. We're back.
That's amazing.
It's a fun course.
Yeah.
You learn a lot from a lot of coaches, and then like
Mhm.
I think you and me, the conversations that we have at the AVP, and then when you're fighting for the national team, that level,
Mhm.
those are conversations that never even existed. We didn't come close to touching on some of the things we talk about on the pro tour.
Mhm.
Never talked about that in at the open level in New York, in New Jersey. There's still friends I have that are playing at the open level and kind of dominating, but you get to a qualifier and it becomes really brutal.
Right.
And it's like, wait, you're doing this well in this region, but the strategical conversation and the technical conversation it's not even on the same planet as what we talk about on the pro tour or the
Right.
FIVB tour. And so that's
Right.
why we had to start creating these courses and why we did the YouTube channel, because I was like, if I never left New York, I never would have heard any of these keys that have made me the player I am and maybe help a bunch of other athletes in different ways.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome because with beach volleyball blowing up so much too, if you're not in a coastal area, it's nice to know that you have access to this stuff now.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
internet's cool.
internet's great. Love it. Yeah.
So, like back to the arm swing mechanics, but more specifically, things that you were told or you worked on earlier in your career
Mhm.
that you had to discard as a pro or modify? Do you have any more of those?
Um, discard or modify. I would say something that I had a very hard time with transitioning to the beach, as a defender, was being okay giving up a good shot,
Mm.
or you're not going to be able to cover everything, and so coming from indoor, it's like nothing hits the floor. And then I came out to the beach and I was like, no, that was just a good shot, and I'm like, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I should be able to touch everything and read everything.
You want
uh,
me to not be mad that I just lost a point? Are you kidding
yeah,
me?
yeah. I was like, what is happening? So that's something that took me a while to kind of be okay with,
Mm,
and work through. I think sometimes even now I'm like, yeah, it was a good shot, but I think
yeah,
I could still get it.
right. Well, more I think about it now of it's a stat collect, which I didn't think of in my entire 20s of
Mhm.
they hit this shot, okay. They were in that position, they had that serve, they hit that shot. So instead of now me losing a point, this team gave me a piece of information.
Yeah,
Right, and
totally.
it's up to me to, like, glean that information and see what I got out of it. Where
Mhm.
did let's trace it backwards. Okay, they hit a high line from, like, 6 feet from the antenna. Why did they hit from the 6 feet from the antenna? Because I served them right in the middle of their chest. Alright, now next
Right,
time, let's
right,
see if they hit a high line from a different area on the court, or do they go for a shot or, like, a cutty or a hard swing because 'cause they're in the middle? But
right.
it's not losing, it's collecting information to use
Absolutely.
later, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's so important, and that's the chess game that we were talking about earlier, right? Like, you're just learning as you're going,
Mm,
and those like, that is also the communication you need to have with your teammate. Like, "Hey, this, and this happened. Let's see if they do it again. Server here again. Let's see what we get."
yeah.
And being okay with maybe they do something different, and you're like, "All right, perfect."
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
Alright,
because
so now it's 50-50. You might be right, I
yeah,
might be right. Let's see what
yeah,
happens for the next 3.
yep, exactly. Yeah. And I think another big thing for me was defensively, my posture. I think a
Hmm.
lot of times I would get dug in, even knowing
What do you mean when you say dug in?
dug in, like getting just kind of like sitting deep into my defensive stance
Okay,
and waiting for a hit to happen
okay.
instead of being a little more free and mobile, especially in a scenario where they can't hit hard. It's like, okay, I'm going to stand up a little bit in my posture and know that I'm ready to run either way.
Hmm,
I don't have to be so dug in for a hit.
okay.
Yeah.
So, recognizing situations and then
Mm.
what do you change? Do you change the tension of your legs and upper body? Uh, you said you stand up a little
Yeah.
bit when you're more ready to run. The cue that I give to players at like camps and clinics is your approximate defensive height, like your serve receive height, should be hands on your knees and then release your hands without moving any part of your body. For defense,
Mhm.
I say, all right, now let's put your elbows on your thighs, right?
Yeah.
And that's like a good depth to play defense in. But
Yeah.
what else are you changing in your posture if you think they're more likely to shoot versus hit, or vice versa? Are you more forward? Are you more backwards? Or
I
what are you
definitely
doing?
like chest up for sure.
Mm,
Chest up and just like maybe coming out of my squat an inch or two,
okay.
knowing that I have to be able to run either way
Mm,
with my chest high.
yeah, because you do need to be at that, just above 90 degrees to be at max power,
Yeah. Yep.
right? Like, because if we
Yep.
think about squatting actually from a box where our knees are at 90 degrees,
Mhm.
we'll probably produce we'll be able to move. If we have the same weight, we'll move it slower off of that box from a 90-degree bend than we would from like a quarter squat where we can
Right. Right.
explode immediately.
Right.
Hmm, interesting way to look
And
at it.
what's interesting is when a lot of people lift, they only squat to that one depth. in my workout routines, we work every depth possible so that I still have power and I still have the quickness out of no matter what, how deep or shallow my squat is.
Do you I've done versions of a workout where I do a 10 count down and my
Mhm.
partner can tell me when to pop. So
Oh,
like they
nice.
tell me when to go so that I'm
Yeah,
almost always ready to generate max speed. And if they don't
yeah.
say anything by the time my ass gets to the grass, then okay,
Yep.
fine. Then
Yeah,
I'll pop once I'm down there. But
yeah.
how do you apply? Are you doing it with box squats? Or are you saying, hey, we're doing one set of quarters, one set of halves, one set of fulls? Or how do you incorporate? Is it different days, the same workout, but different sets, or every rep?
It depends. So I have a strength coach, and if I'm with him, he's the one telling me, like, we could be doing, squats for 30 seconds, and he's telling me what depth to go to each rep.
Oh, okay,
Or
cool.
if I'm on my own, it's like, if I have to do, he'll say like 10 squats in each position. So then I'm hitting, 3 to 5 different positions of each squat.
I like that.
Yeah.
And how crucial is it? Like, blockers who sometimes you can load full, you can like
Yeah.
grab the sand and jump.
Right.
Sometimes they'll run like a jump set and you have to shuffle and just chuck your hands up there with
Hmm.
a less than a quarter jump.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same for blockers. Our trainer is very specific with how he trains beach volleyball players and each
Mhm.
individual. So same thing, like as a defender, I'm more in my defensive stance. I still do we call it for me the jumping stance because I'm not necessarily a blocker, but it's the same position that a blocker would be in. Um, and then yeah, the blockers do their stuff in a more narrow stance, like they would be blocking.
Mm,
Yeah,
I like that. And
yeah.
I also think it's important not to just do it from box squats because in college, our team, we did it on like box squats where we sat on a quarter
Oh
thing.
yeah,
But it's like, yeah, but you have to learn how to rebound out of
right,
that as
right.
well,
Yeah.
And sometimes people use that rocking motion
Mhm.
when they're sitting on a box and they do a squat, and it's like,
Yep.
it's not how this is designed. You're not supposed to
No.
be rocking into it. You're supposed to have full tension, like have your butt or your thighs feather touch whatever box it is,
Yep.
fire from there, not
Yep.
completely relax, sit down, let your spine relax, and then that you're increasing injury at that point too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We do all variations of it. Then drop fast, up slow, drop slow, up fast. And you're catching, in each different position.
I like that. I don't
Mhm.
think a lot of people talk about that much, the different
Yeah.
height, different positions, and where to go from.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
one of the accounts that I follow, Squat University, I
Mhm.
think he's fantastic. And if people here have not subscribed to Squat University on like Squat underscore University, I think
Mhm.
on Instagram, he's so great. If you're into lifting, fitness, and sports and
Yeah.
physical therapy, he helps you solve your
Mm.
pains.
Yeah.
Um, but oh shoot, I forgot where he's going with that. Anyway, you guys should follow him.
Check it out.
Oh,
Good
it was
squat.
the 10-second squat. He was interviewing
Mm.
one of the world's greatest strongmen, and he's like, one of the first things I put people through is a 10-second squat, 10 seconds down, 10 seconds up, so that you understand and you sit in every moment of your squat and you know
Yeah.
where everything should be aligned and the tension that should be there at every
Yep.
moment. Because a lot of people, they'll hit the bottom and they kind of like skip through that phase because they've generated enough energy,
Right. Right.
instead of feeling it. Go do a 10-second down, 10-second up squat,
Mhm.
underweight, and see what that feels like. It's a nightmare, but it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe it. The good pain.
Oh, such a good pain. It's so uncomfortable. You realize how weak you are in certain places. You're like, it shouldn't be this wobbly.
Right? Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're about to start October 1st. We're starting our 21-day foundations program again. So we do like a 21-day health and fitness challenge for
Oh,
anyone who
nice.
signs up. And then that leads into our 60-day max vertical. So
Okay.
first 21 days, it's a workout at minimum, a mobility workout every day. But then
Okay.
we give like a hydration challenge. We give a food,
I
like
need that.
try this type of challenge. Yeah, we got to have a gallon of water a day. But the first piece of homework, and I'll give it to you, maybe you can do it for a week. But
Yeah.
it's as soon as you wake up, you have a full glass of water
Yeah.
immediately. Like that has to be number one on your docket every day. And then
Yeah.
from there, the first thing you do after that drink of water is you go and you do your mobility.
Mm.
So like the first 25 minutes of every morning are covered. And some people hate having to wake up early, but we get a big enough group where we all support each other and we're
Yeah.
like, hey,
That's
waking up was
awesome.
crap today, but I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not allowed to have coffee until, so we do water in the morning, then mobility. Then you have to journal, and
Okay.
we have like prompted questions to get you through your week and through your day and sort your day
Yeah.
out. And then we have a contrast shower.
Oh, nice.
After you've woken yourself up with your own body and with temperature and water, then you're allowed to have your first caffeine or food.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Yeah.
fun. It's a cool challenge. People love
That
it, and
is.
like
Yeah.
we get those initial like vertical bursts. Like in 3 weeks, some people gain like 2-3 inches on their verticals just
Yeah.
because we're firing their engines again.
Right.
Most
Right.
people don't realize that you get a ton of vertical increase if you just stay consistent,
Mhm.
no matter what you're doing, right?
Right. Right.
But programs like that, the challenges and stuff, they get you off your ass and they say, "Hey, we're gonna move with you every day. We're gonna keep you accountable." And so
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can really boost it. So it's fun to see those results, and it's a cool program. And I did it because I needed it after my broken foot. I
Yeah.
was like, I need a super sped up program to
Right.
get me like, okay, my foot's good to go now. I can jump on it,
Yep.
but now my body has to get used to being athletic again, and I need it to happen fast without like kind of wrecking myself.
Mhm.
So I chose a very lightweight, like all of the movements. Those 3 weeks are
Yeah.
not designed to get you strong; they're just designed to get you ready to be strong.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very cool.
You do. Have you done personal training,
I
CSCS? Is that part of your background as well?
Yes, I was a personal trainer, for 4 years. So my first 4 years on tour. I would see anywhere from, like, 9 to 13 clients a night
Oh,
after training all day, and it
yep,
was brutal.
been there.
Yeah. So that was an extra 5 to 6 hours on my feet, because as a personal trainer, you're up, you're spotting your clients, you're showing them exercises, and
Mm.
I do love it, but it was just a lot. So I unfortunately let my certification run out, but
Yeah, you still get the education, and those certifications
yeah,
are people who like can make money. They're the National Strength and Conditioning Organization, or NASM. It's a
yeah,
group of guys and girls who said, "Hey, we know enough about this topic. Let's create a book and let's make people pay to read the book, and
yeah,
we'll give them a piece of paper." So
yeah,
you don't necessarily
yeah, exactly.
need
Yeah,
it if you just pay attention. It's sort of like when people go to
yeah,
college. Some people really do need college. Some people need experience.
right. Absolutely.
So there's
Yeah,
something for everybody.
yeah.
Well, if you ever want to do that same work and coach some volleyball, we got an online coach opportunity where you can just do 2 hours a day and never be on your feet. So
Well, that sounds lovely. We might
you
have to
let us
talk
know.
about this.
Yeah.
That I think I could handle.
It's a lot of
Yeah,
fun, and everybody's
yeah.
super thankful and everything. So
Okay.
um yeah, I've kept you for an hour and a half, but is there anything else that you wish you knew when you're at that qualifier slash pre-qualifier stage that you
Mhm.
think would have propelled your game or saved you a season or a couple of years if you could have just applied this one thing earlier? Like you thought you heard it too late and you were just like, man, I wish somebody had told me this 5 years ago. It would have saved me 1,000 points.
Yeah, yeah. I would say the biggest thing for me is investing in a sports psych.
Hmm.
I never used one until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, um, and I just feel like that's helped me a ton because volleyball is so mental more so than a physical sport, I think, for me personally at least. I think there's just so much that can go on. You can get stuck, looking out and seeing everyone else's success and comparing yourself, and just kind of get wrapped up in the whole volleyball world. So for me, it was finding a good sports psych, one that I mesh really well with.
How
Um,
was there like an interview process? I mean, most people probably don't know. where to even find one or begin. And then
Yeah.
it also should be, yeah, almost interviewee when you
Yeah.
go in there.
I've used 3 different sports psychs, and the first one I used was I did it with my teammate. So I found him through my teammate. She was working with him already.
Okay.
And then USA Volleyball has one that they provide for athletes. And then Scott, my coach, has a guy that the teams he's worked with has used.
Is it Gervais?
Um, no, his
No.
name is Lee
Okay.
Hancock.
Oh, I've heard. Yeah, I've heard his name. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I've used him now for I think the last 3 years. And it was just the best fit for me.
Okay.
He in the very beginning, it was him, like us just kind of sitting down and him getting to know me, how I operate, all that kind of stuff, and him giving me homework, podcasts I have to listen to, books I have to read.
It's great.
Yeah, just kind of learning. And so now that we've been in it for 3 years together, it's so nice because, I can trust him with my life.
Mm.
And he's been there for 3 years. So he knows, I went through the last Olympic qualification and just through a bunch of different partnership changes and coach changes and different stuff. So he's helped me through all that and, helping me navigate how to be the best leader I can be and how to be the best teammate I can be. And I think that's something even back in college, I wish I would have used. I'm pretty sure our school had one. I just never took advantage of it. And yeah, I think it's helped me more than anything.
Isn't it weird when we're inside our head and we're like, well, what mental changes could possibly produce physical and winning
Mhm.
changes?
Yeah, yeah,
Like physically, you're like, oh, I'll get a trainer because I could see my biceps growing, or
right,
my glutes are
right,
firing now. Um, a coach, a technique coach, you could be like, man, spent 2 weeks with him, and now I'm detonating on balls, and my shoulder
yeah,
doesn't hurt at all because I changed my
right,
technique. But
right.
what what changes came consciously? When you
Mm.
were working with your sports psych, what changes did you feel in game or in practice?
Him giving me tools in certain situations. So it was like if I felt myself spiraling or getting frustrated, um, he helped me learn kind of how my brain works and how I operate, like
Hmm.
what I needed to think about in that scenario to get out of it. And one of the big things was a 15-second rule because you always have, you don't have a lot of time in between points.
Yeah.
So 15-second rule, say I shank a ball. I have 5 seconds to be pissed off, frustrated, whatever emotion I want to feel. 5 seconds of what happened, like how can I fix it? And then the last 5 seconds is, all right, I'm back into serve receive, on to the next task.
Okay.
So it's for me, it's like I always want to like push emotions down and act like they're not there and try not to feel them. But I get 5 seconds to do that.
What
And
do
then
we do with our emotions? We put them in our muscles.
exactly power through. They're not really there. They're just asleep.
Tuck them deep down
Yeah,
with the rest of all the crap in my life.
whatever, let them out. Yeah, so it was just, him showing me how to use those tools in those situations,
Mm,
and how to be a good teammate. So,
nice.
and how to lean on my teammate because I go very internal. So he's helped me open up that communication and know like
Oh,
I can lean on my teammate. It doesn't have to be just me in my head all the time.
that's that speaks to me a lot.
Yeah.
I'm the type of person that will take everything on my shoulders and
Hmm.
and intentionally try to like take weight off of it. I remember I was a player coach in Sweden, like my pro indoor team, when we had a 20-year-old opposite who physically wasn't quite ready yet.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, we need a big swing. And as the coach and the player, I was like, hey, we're gonna set me or we're gonna set Mike, you know,
Hmm.
uh, because I wanted to protect Axel's. emotions and his confidence for the next
Yeah.
season. Right? It was a big
Okay.
moment. I was like, I actually don't want him to take the last swing and feel like he's not competent, or that
Right.
he's a failure on game point. So let's
Right.
not put him in that situation yet. Let's have him keep growing confidence. He interpreted it as, you had zero faith in me.
Mm,
You took it upon yourself to say that I couldn't handle this situation.
yeah.
And nothing has there are very few things that have stuck with me more as a coach than
Yeah.
me assuming he couldn't handle it, and so like working the strategy so that we took it off his plate and made the tougher plays on somebody else.
Right. Right.
And I never thought for a second he would interpret it like that, but
Right.
yeah. So I'll put some the crap on my shoulders because I'm like, I can handle that, but
Yeah.
then you never let your teammate get involved,
Right. Yeah.
and it's a team.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like that. Those are good tools to
Mhm.
have mentally. I started working with Headspace for a little while, and
Yeah.
just listening to Headspace, the app in the car,
Mhm.
where he talks about quiet, calm confidence, and then focusing on your breathing. Just for the first time, doing nothing but focusing on your breathing.
Yeah.
I'm in serve receive. I am the most comfortable person on earth now, just because of a few episodes of a meditation program where I just
Yeah.
repeat this same thing for myself.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And yeah, serve receive has never been better, because just, all right, throw that out and now, and just knowing that you're quiet, calm, confident. You don't
Yeah.
need to be raging to show off your confidence, but
Right.
you can just like chill and know that everything's going to be all right, that you're going to do well.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. And that kind of reminds me of something else he's taught me is that going into every game or match isn't going to be the same. Now, there's times that if I'm feeling really anxious and like getting kind of hyped up to play, sometimes I'll listen to slower music to kind of calm my nerves.
Hmm.
And then if I feel like I'm a little sluggish and I'm having a hard time getting going, then I'll listen to a little like more upbeat to get myself going.
Oh, that's smart. Instead of having like your pregame playlist, you have your,
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of almost three selections of a
Yeah.
playlist depending
It
on where
changes.
you're at.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought that was always weird. It's like, shouldn't it be the same? So you feel the same going in every time. And it's
Yeah.
like, but your emotions and mentally and physically, you're not always going to feel the same. So what do you need in that moment to help you perform?
I feel like such an idiot for never having thought about that.
Listen,
you
I
know,
do
if
too.
you because you could hear the exact same thing with the exact same intonation at two different times in your life, and one of them you'll want to like take somebody's heads off, and the
Yeah.
other you're like, yeah, man, absolutely,
Right.
just because you're in a different mental state. And so to
Absolutely.
say that you're going to be in the same mental state, so you need the same exact music every time, or the same process for your pregame, whatever it is,
Hmm.
there is that mix of, no, I should have a routine. Routines create consistency, or
Right.
yeah, there's that changing mental state because we are changing beings.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now I need two playlists. Big Booty
Right.
Mix 2022. I mean, you're still gonna stay at the top, but uh,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
dang. All
Hmm.
right, I'll get some Enya or something.
Yeah. Perfect. Uh,
Nice.
yeah.
Uh, Emily, if anybody wants to reach out to you or get in touch or follow you, what websites, social media, any email that you want to share? Should they get in touch with you? You're too busy training, or where can they just learn more about you and maybe reach out to connect?
Yeah, I'm pretty basic when it comes to all that stuff. So I only do social media, and really only Instagram. So it's at estock2. Yeah, feel free to shoot me a message. I feel like I'm usually pretty good at responding. Sometimes it might take a few days, but I will get back. And yeah, if you have any questions, volleyball workout wise is always a little tough, because what works for me isn't going to work for everybody.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, any questions or whatever, I'm happy to answer. Happy to be a resource for you guys.
Nice.
Yeah.
So estock 2.
Yep.
ESTOCK2 on Instagram. Go ahead, make sure you guys give her a follow. Follow her career. And speaking of career, do you have any big events coming up that you're planning on that we can watch and cheer and support?
Yes, we leave in about a week and a half for the Paris Elite 16 event.
How sick is that?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm so fired up. Um, yeah, we were like the last team in, so
yeah.
yeah, just made it. So we're freaking excited. So we have that, and then I think we come home for a week, and then I think we're traveling for about 5 weeks.
Whoa,
There's
what? Why?
Yeah, we have because we're gonna do the challengers, so we're doing
Oh, the Challenger Series. Yeah.
a couple of Dubai events, South Africa, Brazil, Egypt might still be in there. I'm not sure.
All the fun places.
All the all the places, yeah. So we're still rolling. It feels like we're only about halfway through season right now. So
That's bonkers.
it's crazy,
That's bonkers.
absolutely crazy. But
Cool.
yeah, we're excited. It's a new journey, and Meg and I are fired up. Scott and Chris are coaches, and so we're ready.
Nice.
Ready
Hey,
to go travel.
I have one more unique question before we run out.
Yes.
Who or what would be your dream sponsor? If there's a company out there that exists and maybe you name them and they're like they want their highlight athlete because they need marketing, they need somebody to represent them. Name that company, product, mission.
There are so many, but I would say top of my list is Aviator Nation.
Aviator Nation. What's that?
Do you know? Okay, it's a clothing company.
Okay.
They're fantastic. I love it's all American made.
Mm,
So that's one of the biggest things for me. I love American made products. The softest, most amazing materials are used for their products. And they're just the story behind Paige is the owner of the company, and her story is really cool, and how she developed the company and how it's blown up now. There's stores in a lot of different states. And Aspen's one of her favorite stores, which I'm from Colorado, so
cool.
there's just a lot in common there.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Paige, if you're listening,
Please be
you have
listening.
your rock star right here. If you guys know Paige, give her a call. Tell her to
I will
listen to
wear
this.
your product day in and day out.
On the court, we don't care. Give me leather
Yeah,
jackets and I'll wear aviator sunglasses. I don't care if I bleed from the eyes.
I don't even care. I will wear a winter jacket in my sport. I'm ready.
Awesome. Cool. Emily, it's so nice to talk to you.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Um,
Absolutely.
that was a gem of a talk because we touched on a lot between leadership,
Yeah.
communication, partner problems, partner solutions, arm swing, and then getting really to tackle like a winning mindset and the sports psych behind it. There's
Mhm.
this in itself has been an absolute masterclass for people to listen to. So, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, you're not done here. After here, if there's a like button, like it, but share it and send it to somebody who wants to hear about Emily's journey from arm swing, from communication with your partner to sports psychology. Go ahead and share it. Give it a rating if you know how to do that. I don't even know how to do that, but I hope you guys do. And definitely share it around because
Yeah.
I think this in itself was definitely a really cool masterclass. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Awesome. Thank you again. Hope you guys enjoyed. And again, reach out on Instagram if you have any questions.
Cool.
Yeah.
Have fun in Paris.
Thank you.
All right. See you, Emily.
Bye.
Bye.